So hit it.
Hello and welcome. We're back. We're back in action. It's good to be with you. This is the Play Sports, the podcast. Dad, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to be back, and we've got a couple of great guests. Eric Jensen from 1280 The Zone and the Chronicle, and John Coon, sportswriter and author. Good to have you guys.
Great to be back on the podcast.
The comeback tour is alive. We took a short break. It's kind of a dead period right now in the state. But as we were just saying before we started recording, that feels like it's over now. It feels like things are starting to heat up again.
Let's catch up with our guests real quick. Eric, what are you up to these days?
Sports, truly, I think what I've learned from being very, very young and working kind of within the industry is that the off season doesn't exist. There is truly no off season. I've been busy working with the Bees, been busy, working with some NBA draft coverage and the summer league here in Salt Lake a few weeks ago. And, we have a little time off now that the Jazz are playing in Las Vegas, but people are still obviously keeping an eye on that. And then, I'm excited for football to come back. I love football. It's one of my favorite sports, and, maybe check back in how much I love football when we're in mid-October and I've been working like 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. shifts for like 2 months. Yeah. Maybe check in on how much I love football then. But right now, the love is pure and real, and I'm just excited for the fall to get underway.
Fall's a good season. I love fall. Yeah,
it is. Speaking of guys that work long hours, John wrote another book, and John, just kind of catch us up with what you've been doing.
Well, like you said, wrote another book, released it in July. It's called Dark Metamorphosis, the sequel to Alien People, the second in a trilogy, and I'm working on the third book in the trilogy when I'm not doing sports writing, which right now is a lot of time being taken up by sports writing.
John, sorry, John, I was just going to ask, when you sell the movie rights to your trilogy, which Hollywood actor is going to play the main protagonist in your story? Who do you have in your mind?
Oh, that's a good question. See, a lot of the actors I think about are probably too old for the characters, to be honest. Like Calandra, I've always envisioned a Rachel McAdams type in that role. And then with extra,
she's not old.
She's too old for the role of Calandra, though.
Oh, of course.
And then with extra, I've always envisioned like a Chris Pratt type.
Yeah. Okay. I would see that movie. I would totally see that movie. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we get him for free.
Yeah. Hopefully John lets us walk the red carpet. We can have producer credits for the debut.
These guys did.
Hey, if I'm in the position to hook you up, I'm going to hook you up. So.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the release of the new book, and
thank you.
It's a pleasure. And there's not a guy that works as hard as John Coon. I mean, he knows. I didn't mean to insult him, but I talked to him on the phone. And I said, "You know a little about a lot of things," and I really meant to say, "You know a lot about a lot of things." So that's the best compliment I can give you. But you guys ready to jump into the 4 quarters of fun?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
First quarter, Jazz off-season moves. John, what do you think of what the Jazz have done?
I mean, this is as close to a home run as the Jazz could get in terms of who they brought in, given the amount of money they had to work with. I mean, you got Rudy Gay on the mid-level exception, huge upgrade from George Niang off the bench. Gay is a lot more versatile defensively. He's a much more consistent scorer, good mid-range shooter, decent outside shooter, and he's a great defender. That's going to help the Jazz immensely. Hassan Whiteside replaces what they lost with Derek Favors when they had to trade him away to lessen the luxury tax. Whiteside, good shot blocker, good rebounder. You know, he can kind of be the same type of defender as Rudy Gobert, so they can keep consistency with their defense. Hopefully not have as bad of a drop off as they've had the last couple of years when the bench guys come in. And then, of course, Mike Conley, it was big for them to bring him back. The contract is actually fairly team friendly, which is good. And Conley, when he was healthy, when he wasn't having the hamstring issues, that offense just ran smoothly with him at the controls. And so it's a no-brainer. You're not going to do better at point guard than Conley with what was out there. And so I feel like the Jazz did exactly what they needed to improve, and they will be improved this year.
Eric, yeah, you guys hear a lot at the radio station, and you just happen to have a studio in the arena. What's the buzz about what the Jazz have done in the offseason?
You know, I think the general feeling is that this offseason was not so much about upgrading the roster a ton, but more adding some depth and retaining the pieces they have. Letting Mike Conley, I'll be the first to say, at first, I was kind of the opinion, you know, Mike Conley's getting older. I don't know if they really want to give him a huge deal. But really, if you looked at it, if they let him walk, they had no cap space anyways. So there was no way to replace him. So the only option was to keep him. So they kept him. They bring in Rudy Gay, great, you know, defender, and a guy that can kind of play 3-and-D, sort of play wing defender. I mean, that's still what the Jazz lack, is they still lack someone long that can defend the wings. That's always kind of been an issue for them over these past few years under Quinn Snyder. And, you know, we'll see what happens. Hopefully maybe Donovan Mitchell improves defensively and he can start kind of becoming that guy a little bit. I like the addition of Hassan Whiteside. I'm a fan of him offensively more than most people. I remember when he came into the league with Miami most fondly. So I'm a fan of that move. But I really think the one thing that is kind of flying under the radar with them roster wise is the fact that I really do think Udoka Azubuike is going to have a bigger role on this team this year. He has been absolutely fantastic in the summer league. He provides them something Rudy Gobert just, you know, for as good as he is, can't. And that is a dynamic offensive weapon in the post. And he gives them that. And if you have to take Gobert off the floor, you are not sure, you might be exposed a little bit defensively, but you're going to have another offensive weapon. And while he can't play against small ball guys like Trey Mann, like happened in the Clippers, they didn't fix that problem at all. That's an issue, obviously. But still, if they run into that same problem in the playoffs, I think a solution potentially is play Udoka Azubuike, and if they're going to play small ball, just let him dominate in the post and take your, you know, free points from dunks, which is basically what he's done all summer league. And I get that there's a difference in level of competition, but I like what the Jazz have done. And then honestly, I mean, it's not so much that I think the Jazz have had an excellent offseason as so much as the teams in the Western Conference they're competing with just haven't had that like great off seasons. Like the Russell Westbrook move doesn't make sense for me for the Lakers. Buddy Hield would have been a much better fit. Russell Westbrook has always been a ball dominant player. LeBron's a ball dominant player. I don't know how that's going to work out. Almost every team Russell Westbrook has played on since those KD Oklahoma City Thunder games does not win a lot of games, despite him putting up big numbers. And then the Clippers, something that's just been totally slept on is like this Kawhi injury is very serious. Like, there's a potential he does not play this year at all. And I still think the Jazz are favorites in the West. I think their main competition is Phoenix and probably an emerging Golden State team if Klay Thompson can stay healthy. So overall, I feel like, the buzz is good, but also I drew this comparison. I root for the Colorado Avalanche in hockey. For the Avalanche last year and this year, nothing matters until April. And that's extra true with the Jazz. Like, nothing matters like, this team could be a 4 seed or a 1 seed. Nothing matters until they get to the playoffs. You have to win in the playoffs for the perception to change. And until that happens, you're going to be viewed by the national media as kind of an afterthought, even though maybe you shouldn't be. But for me, I mean, I honestly, I don't take a ton away from the NBA regular season. I know this is kind of a hot take, but I don't particularly enjoy the NBA regular season. I think it's the worst regular season product of any major sports team in North America. And really all that matters for the Jazz is making sure they're in the playoffs, a top 4 seed, and then just see what happens in May.
Eric, we're going to give you a record there for longest take after the buzzer. You were rolling there. That's the kind of energy we want to see. Proud of you, Eric. There you go. That you've now. I'm trying to think who you took the title from. Might be Jody Genessee, but you now hold that honor, my friend.
Yeah, I knew I was talking too long there. I got like 18 things.
You had a train of thought that would not be derailed. Let's move on to the second quarter here. What do we got here? We got college football starting with the all around the state, right? Weber State's going right into fall after playing the spring. University of Utah, they're gearing up to play a full season for the first time in 2 years. BYU, they're going to replace Zach Wilson. You're good at asking questions, starting the discussion. What do you think, Dad?
Well, I think it's exciting. I think a lot of people assume college football is going to be back the way they thought it used to be, and we'll see. John, you've been to some practices. What's the vibe? Do you think everybody thinks college football is back and back in the form that we remember from 2 years ago?
Yeah, everybody's excited. I mean, that you just sense that with both BYU and Utah. They're excited to have a quote unquote normal season, and you can kind of just sense that they're hungry to get out there. They're hungry to go play a full slate. They're hungry to just have a normal season.
And that, well, let me ask both of our guests, and Austin, you jump in here too. How many wins do you see for BYU, and how many wins do you see for Utah this year? And is this a championship season for either one making the college football playoff? And I know they can't win it with Alabama and Clemson and the big boys in there, but can neither one of them get there?
Eric, what do you think?
Starting with BYU's schedule is so tough. I mean, they play most of the Pac-12, which is up this year, I think. They've got games, as I pull up their schedule here, they've got, games against Arizona State, Utah, Boise State, Baylor, Washington State, which they'll be down. I think they can win that, and USC. Like it's a very tough schedule. That said, I mean, from what I hear out of Cougars camp, the people down there, there seems to be a quiet optimism about that team. And the only thing I stand by this, the only thing that really matters for them, I think, this year is September 11th. Like, if Kalani Sitake can end this kind of streak of losing to Utah and get a win, even if they finish 7-5 or 6-6 and just
what about
barely
1-11 with the only win over Utah?
That might be a problem. But if they can have an average record, which I think they can be a bowl team with a Utah win in there, I think that BYU is going to have to extend Kalani Sitake. And I mean, the Utes, I don't know what John thinks, but I mean, for as much praise as Kyle Whittingham gets, my only criticism of him is throughout his career, they just don't show up for the big games. And there are a lot of big games on this schedule this year. I think the Pac-12 South is incredibly good. I think UCLA is going to be a lot better than people think. I think they're going to beat LSU in their non-conference. I think that USC is a good program despite Clay Helton. And I think ASU, despite the off-field stuff, is really good. Oh, not to mention they play Oregon, arguably in November, in the best team in the Pac-12. And I don't care if that game's at Utah. That's a tough game. If Kyle Whittingham can, win 7 or more games under this schedule, it'll be great. I think the minimum should be 8 wins. But if they can win more than that, if they can split that USC ASU series and beat Oregon at home, I think that answers all the questions I have personally about Kyle Whittingham. I think he's a great coach already. I just think he kind of struggles with these big moments. And I think if they do all that in the regular season, they have a great chance to win the Pac-12 outright this year and contend for a national title.
John, let's go overtime. You take as much time as you need. What do you see?
So starting with Utah, I see a 10-win season within reach, easily within reach for Utah. I see them contending for a Pac-12 South title. Wouldn't shock me at all if they're in the title game for the 3rd time in 4 years. And the reason why is Utah returns virtually their entire defense from last year intact. And that defense was coming on strong and progressing through that 5-game slate. And by the end of the 5-game slate, it was a good defense. They were really solid. They really were starting to impose their will both against the run and the pass. They have tons of experience in the wide receiver tight end group, have an experienced deep offensive line. I mean, they've got question marks on who's going to be the starting quarterback. Is it going to be Rising? Is it going to be Brewer? They have a question mark on who's going to be the starting running back, who's going to come out of the backfield to replace Ty Jordan. But beyond that, this is a team that's built to make a run. And the schedule favors them. I would be very surprised if they don't win at least 10 games this year.
How about the Cougars?
And then when you look at BYU, I actually will dispute the notion that they have a super tough schedule. On paper, it looks tough, but a lot of their P5 opponents they're playing are coming off awful seasons. Arizona went winless last year. Baylor won 2 games last year. Virginia was down last year. Washington State was down. You run down the board, and these are actually winnable games despite their name P5 status for BYU.
It's a good thing you and I don't know where Eric is. I guess he's by campus. I don't know where you live, John. It's just a good thing you guys are separated because things might go to blows. The way you guys are disagreeing. But you know what? That's healthy discourse. That's something we need in this country. And
the thing about BYU,
there it goes. Yeah,
is that having said that, BYU probably is looking realistically at maybe a 7-8 win season because they do have a lot that they need to replace. You don't replace a quarterback like Zach Wilson without any sort of roughness whatsoever. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of a transition, some growing pains there. I mean, they're replacing their top receiver, Dax Milne, as well. They're replacing some key guys on the defensive end. And so, yeah, there's going to be some growing pains for BYU, and there's going to be some games that they probably should win that they'll drop. I mean, because let's face it, that's something BYU's done under Kalani Sitake pretty much every year except last year. and there are some teams that they'll beat that they probably shouldn't beat.
All right.
And I think probably 7-8 wins is probably realistic for BYU.
Let's take a halftime break, everybody. Let's grab a drink. I know Eric's got Eric, is that Sprite, by the way?
No, this is cherry Coke tonight.
Okay. Last time you were on, you were all about your Sprite. I remember this. Let's all, Dad, let's go on and take a drink.
I'll have a swig too. Now, just a reminder, since we've run overtime, we're going to just not have the dance team come on and do a number for us at halftime. We're going to get right back to action third quarter. And let's talk conference realignment with Texas and Oklahoma jumping to the SEC. There seems to be a thought that there's going to be a massive shift in college alignment in that. John and I talked on the phone about different scenarios in that. Let me ask you, Eric, do you see BYU finding a home with the seismic changes that are predicted?
Well, it depends on how seismic you think the changes are going to be honest with you, because if they're like, if we're at like a 7.5 on the Richter scale and Los Angeles is falling into the sea, like there is real speculation that the SEC is just going after all the big name programs and that they're just going to totally break off from the NCAA and basically become a minor league system for the NFL and bring in teams like Clemson and Ohio State and Florida State and Notre Dame and all these, and just have basically all these big name teams in one conference. I think locally realignment hurts pretty much every team in this state. Despite what Utah is as a program, they don't bring in enough revenue to be a draw to even the Big Ten if the Pac-12 and Big Ten were to merge, like there have been some reports about. So honestly, I think BYU has to be really careful, because if I were BYU, I would not want to join the Big 12 because I think they're about to be relegated to a G5 league. And I don't know if the Pac-12 will let BYU in because of all the things that come along with BYU, namely the fact they can't play on Sunday, and that's a big day for Pac-12 sports. So, short answer, I just think that realignment, as fun as it is, and to see all these teams move together, and I like college football. I don't personally mind that Texas and Oklahoma are joining the SEC. I don't mind that the SEC is going to be a super conference. I'll still watch, the teams within state no matter what, but it's bad for everybody in the state that we are heading in a direction where only the biggest name programs are included in, discussion for whatever this new college football league's going to look like at some point.
All right, John, you and I had a long discussion about this. You're well-versed in the ways and the opportunities here. If you were a betting man, and I'm not sure that you are, where do you think Utah and BYU end up when this is all said and done?
Well, I mean, it really hinges on what the Big Ten decides to do. I mean, we all know that the SEC is expanding faster than the Marvel Cinematic Universe these days. But, I mean, if the Big Ten decides they want to move to 16 to keep up with the SEC, then you'll see a domino effect that will impact all the other leagues. There's scenarios where if the Big Ten expands, then the Pac-12 will probably expand to keep pace with the Big Ten. And in that case, Utah's likely going to end up in Eastern Division of the Pac-12 with new additions. Now, if you have the Big Ten decide to stay put, then there'll be pretty much status quo with the Pac-12, and so Utah won't really be affected. And honestly, BYU won't really be affected either. I can only see them joining the Big 12 remnants if it made sense money-wise. So, I mean, if they're going to actually get a substantial more amount of money joining up than they do currently from ESPN. But the thing you got to figure there too is Texas and Oklahoma going out of that league is going to devalue any future TV contract by a significant margin. So there's not a guarantee that they would actually get substantially more money by joining that league. And that's really what it comes down to for BYU. Will realignment moves cause them to lose value in their product and their ability to get the TV money that they're getting right now being independent? I mean, because if it was about playoff access, they probably would have already joined up with the American or tried to cobble together a new league, drawing out the best G5s. But they've made it clear that it's not really about their major concern. It's the TV money. It's the ability to show games to their fans around the country, to be able to play around the country. But if that domino effect occurs where you have the other leagues expanding and they start ripping away the best of the rest in the Big 12, then I think it will force BYU's hand, and they will have to join like the American or best of the rest G5 league that forms, just as a matter of survival. Because at that point, independence is not sustainable, short-term or long-term, and they don't want to be just sitting without, a chair when the musical chairs stop.
That's how you lose musical chairs. That's
It
true.
is.
Yeah.
Hey, Austin, before we start the fourth quarter, you haven't had a chance to express your opinion much. What do you think about all this?
It's gonna be weird. Because I kind of have a bit of pessimism in my blood right now. Could be the Dutch brothers, maybe they put something in it, but it just feels like BYU is going to get left out yet again, and it's going to really hurt. I think that's just me speaking as a pessimistic person. I think here's how I see it. We talked for so long about how BYU really needed to get out of independence. But in 2020, I don't think any team benefited more from being independent than BYU. They were able to swing games on the fly, schedule things really quickly. They weren't, beholden to any kind of conference, stiffness or rigidity or whatever the word is. So that was good. That was like the redeeming moment for independence. But, as John alluded to, I think, in terms of survival, it's not sustainable. But Eric also touched on this. I think BYU just has a little too much baggage, namely, the playing on Sunday. That's going to be kind of an antiquated thing to deal with, and I don't know. It's really hard. It's really hard, but I think they're out.
It's going to be interesting because the new commissioner of the Pac-12 said, football would be the priority, obviously, and Utah has never played a Sunday football game. I know it's mostly with basketball and the Olympic sports. So it'll be interesting to see if they look past that and say, BYU brings this audience for football. Let's get them. So, you just never know. But like you said, another domino needs to fall to get everything going here. But let's jump to the fourth quarter and wrap this bad boy up. Let's just talk about the NFL briefly. John, what are your thoughts? And it can be big picture, locals, whatever you got on your mind with the NFL.
It's kind of fun watching the local reaction on social media to everything that Zach Wilson does or doesn't do. I've never seen just this level of overreaction over a preseason NFL football games in the longest time.
It's Eric, what do you think?
I I'm with John. I mean, it the Jets, what people have to understand is that the Jets are at the very start of the rebuild. Like, they've been one of the worst run franchises in the NFL for the past 45 years. Like, they just got a new GM. This is the first year under a new head coach, first year with a new quarterback. And I mean, the people freaking out that he's throwing some interceptions in his first NFL scrimmage, like, I'm with John. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, he is not going to come in and be, Patrick Mahomes right off the bat. Not many quarterbacks are. But I think the key is don't pay attention to what Zach Wilson does in September and October, because it won't be anything special. Pay attention to what Zach Wilson does in November and December, because that's when quarterbacks usually start to figure things out as rookies. And as long as the Jets finish strong, I think that everything will be fine in New York.
Ooh, we were so close to a disaster there. I got the notification in the corner of the screen that the computer was about to shut down. I had to hurry and plug it in really quick. That was, you guys don't know how close we were right there. That was
photo finish.
Yeah, that would have been rough. But yeah, just touching on what you guys mentioned about Zach Wilson, I think it's gonna be fun to see. I think what's gonna be interesting is if I remember hearing this right, I think he asked his mom to get off of social media because she was just a little too, how do I say, just loud, maybe
vocal,
a little too vocal. We might have lost Eric there. I just see Eric's smiling face right now, where his.
I'm here.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I just scrolled down to look at a text.
Oh,
sorry.
Man. We averted one disaster to almost have another, but yeah. I mean, the people in New York are just going to eat Zach alive if things don't go well unreasonably quickly. And is it fair? Probably not. It doesn't help that his mom is very loud on social media, and Zach probably did the right thing asking her, allegedly. He says he didn't ask her, but I think he did. To tone it down a little bit. So it'll be intriguing to see what the buzz is out of New York, especially if things don't go so well, which they very easily could. So that's my thought. And I want to see if Tom Brady can do it again. I think that's the other thing I'm really interested in for this year. So.
Oh, and I think Austin will agree with me that the Seattle Seahawks are going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they need to. They need to. We talk about Russell Wilson all the time. We love him to death, but there are some times he drives us crazy. So, yeah, that's where we are.
Go ahead.
As a big picture NFL guy, I mean, Seattle's in, like, the teams that people care about here locally. I would qualify as for Broncos, for Raiders, the Seahawks, and the Cowboys. And I think all four of those teams are really interesting, especially the Cowboys and the Seahawks. I think the Cowboys have the potential to be the best offense in the NFL, and Seattle's got to win this year, and Pete Carroll has got to get out of the way, because if things don't go well, and by go well, I mean the expectation has to be get to an NFC championship game and compete for a Super Bowl, they're going to have to choose between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. And hopefully they're smart enough to choose Russell Wilson, but who knows?
Well, Pete Carroll's 85 years old and Russell Wilson's 29 or something.
John, who's your Super Bowl pick?
I've got to go with the team nearest to my heart. I know it's an impossible dream, but the Cleveland Browns are going to make it one year. Why not this year?
Why not this year? That's a good motto. Well, we appreciate it, guys. That's 4 quarters of debate and conversation. Now we're going to move on to our parting shots. I'll go first. How's that? I'll just jump in there and slide in. The University of Utah is going to have an open house later this month for the renovations at Rice-Eccles Stadium and the Golf Performance Zone and that. And it's kind of exciting. You know, I think in one hand you can say, gosh, they did all this work for a football stadium, but I think it kind of brings Rice-Eccles Stadium into the modern era now. They have luxury suites, they have a restaurant in there, they have a whole bunch of amenities that they haven't had. Now, were they okay without them? Probably, but you know, it's a new world we live in. So I think it's just kind of exciting. And the fact that they were able to not go into big time debt to do this says something too. But I think folks are really going to be proud of what they see up there. That's my parting shot. John?
You know, I'm looking forward to seeing how BYU and Utah measure up against the Pac-12 South, because BYU is basically playing almost all the Pac-12 South teams this year. And you always see the debate on social media. Oh, well, BYU can, you know, compete with these teams if they're in the same league. Well, now we get to see.
Yeah,
Arizona State and USC are all common opponents.
Get your tickets now. Eric, what are your parting thoughts?
I'll just keep it quick. Fall is busy. Start thinking now about how your schedule is going to go throughout the week. Make your start blocking off Thursday through Monday as days you'll just not be able to be alive.
Or go on dates or anything like that.
Yep. And just be like, okay, Thursday through Sunday, and then say, okay, which one of those days do I want to go back on NFL Game Pass and watch the NFL games I didn't get to see live? What day is my tape day? And then make sure you have an off day, at least one off day, that either that Tuesday or that Wednesday, and make sure you have time to do your little side podcast projects. Pick days that you're going to set aside specifically for those, because it will get so busy if you do not have specific days set aside for those side projects will not happen. So it's just breathe, continue to breathe, take a deep breath, relax. It's busy, it's crazy, but it's fun, and beats working in the cube.
2 words to add to that: stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
Always. Yep. Safety first, then teamwork also.
Yeah. All right, Austin, bring us home.
Well, this feels weird saying something that could be polarizing, but I'm going to do it. We're in a weird time right now. We're trying to get out of this pandemic. For goodness sakes, let's do everything we can to have the kind of the kind of fall that we have been looking forward to, the kind of fall that we deserve. So I'm imploring anybody who's listening to really consider getting a vaccination, or if you really don't want to, if you really feel like you have good reasoning, please wear a mask when you go out. Let's get this done. Let's go back to having the kind of falls that we know and love, and just plead free. Let's put this shiz in the rearview mirror. Let's get out of here, and let's get back to the sports life we know and love.
All right. Thanks for the parting shots. Got a little housekeeping to do here. Turn it over to Austin.
We're going to do the Wheel of Fortune right now. I got it queued up on the old iPad here. Just touch right there in the middle of the screen, that white dot. See who we got? Fabulous. Okay, hold on. It's not... You must have had greasy fingers or something. Here we go.
Fat finger.
All right, here we go. Our winner this week is Adam Jessen. I'm not going to share his email, but Adam Jessen, you're the lucky winner of a Rudy Gobert lanyard. Keep all your keys and other things that you feel like need to be gathered together on a string, handy. So there you go.
It's over 7 feet of string. So
yeah, exactly. It's and
or other material, whatever it is.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert actually put the keys to his Bentley on this once, and he took them right off. But yeah, they were on there. So
that's their story. We're sticking to it. Hey, folks, we appreciate the support. We appreciate our guests today, and we encourage you to spread the word about thisistheplacesports.com. We're trying to be an alternative forum to get your sports information, and we're just grateful that we got good friends out in the business like these guys. And thank you for joining us. And Austin, good job again. Thanks for leading the way here.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks again.
See ya.